The rain does not fall in drops. It pours in sheets. Cold, relentless, suffocating. The mud clings to your legs like it wants to pull you under. Every step is a battle. Every breath burns in your chest. You are a Roman soldier, a legionary of the greatest empire the world has ever seen. You have marched across deserts, crushed kingdoms, stood unshaken against cavalry charges and siege engines. But this is different. The forest is silent. No battle lines, no horns, no warning. Just trees. Endless, towering, suffocating trees. And somewhere inside them, something is watching you. Then, a scream. Not ahead of you, not behind you. Inside the trees. And suddenly, the forest comes alive. Shadows move. Spears fly. Men vanish. Your formation collapses before you even understand what's happening. You're not fighting an army. You're trapped inside a nightmare. And by the time the Roman Empire realizes what's happening, 3 entire legions will be gone, erased, destroyed so completely that even their numbers will never be spoken again. This is the story of the battle that stopped Rome. This is the story of the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. Before we step into the forest, if you enjoy deep cinematic history like this, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps this channel grow and allows us to bring you more stories like this, the kind history books don't fully capture. Now, let's rewind. At the beginning of the 1st century, the Roman Empire is unstoppable. From the sands of Egypt to the cliffs of Spain to the rivers of Gaul, Rome does not negotiate, Rome absorbs. Its legions are not just soldiers, they are machines of discipline, precision, and overwhelming force. And at the center of it all is one man, Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. A man who transformed a crumbling republic into a global superpower. Under Augustus, Rome isn't just conquering land, it's building permanence, roads, cities, laws, order. But there is one place, one region that refuses to be fully controlled. Germania. Germania is not like Gaul. There are no grand cities to capture, no centralized kings to defeat, no wealth to plunder, just forests, endless forests, and tribes, dozens of them, independent, fierce, unpredictable. The Romans see them as disorganized, primitive. But they underestimate something critical. These tribes know the land. And they don't fight Rome's kind of war. They don't line up in neat formations. They don't wait for battle signals. They disappear, strike, and vanish again. Still, Rome pushes forward. Because Rome always pushes forward. To control Germania, Rome needs more than soldiers. It needs allies, and that's where he enters the story. Arminius, born a German, raised by Rome. Arminius is taken as a hostage in his youth, standard Roman practice for controlling tribal leaders. But instead of being broken, he adapts. He learns Latin, he studies Roman warfare, he becomes one of them. Eventually, he earns Roman citizenship, even equestrian rank. To Rome, Arminius is proof that Germania can be civilized, controlled, integrated. But they don't realize they didn't tame him, they trained him. At the same time, Rome appoints a new governor to Germania, a man named Publius Quinctilius Varus. Varus is not a battlefield commander, he's an administrator, a bureaucrat. He spent most of his career governing already stable provinces, collecting taxes, maintaining order. And that's the problem, because Germania is not stable, but Varus treats it like it is. He imposes Roman law, demands taxes, punishes resistance. He believes the region is already under control. Arminius tells him what he wants to hear, feeds him confidence, reassures him, all while secretly building something else entirely, a coalition. Behind Roman lines, Arminius is moving, quietly, carefully. He travels between tribes. The Cherusci, the Bructeri, the Marsi, old enemies, rivals, people who would normally never unite. But Arminius offers them something powerful, a chance to destroy Rome, not repel it, not delay it, destroy it. And slowly, the tribes begin to agree, because they've seen what Rome does. It doesn't coexist, it consumes. And if they don't act now, they will lose everything. By the year 9 CE, everything is in place. Varus believes he is marching through a peaceful province. Arminius rides at his side as a trusted ally. 3 Roman legions march confidently into the wilderness, but they are not entering friendly territory. They are walking directly into a trap, and what happens next will become one of the greatest military disasters in Roman history. All right, let's step into the forest. The column stretches for miles. Not a tight, disciplined Roman formation, but a long, winding line. 3 full legions, the 17th, 48th, and 99th. Nearly 20,000 men, legionaries, auxiliaries, cavalry. And behind them, civilians, merchants, families, wagons loaded with supplies, personal belongings, and loot. This is not an army marching to war. This is an army moving through what it believes is peace. At the center of it all, Publius Quinctilius Varus rides calmly, unconcerned, because he has no reason to suspect danger. At his side, Arminius, trusted, respected, loyal, or so Varus believes. The Romans are used to open ground. They thrive in space, clear battlefields, defined lines, room to maneuver. But Germania offers none of that. The path narrows, trees close in, the road dissolves into mud, heavy rain begins to fall, not a light drizzle, a cold, relentless downpour. Shields grow heavy, armor begins to chafe, boots sink deep into the earth with every step. The column stretches thinner, more vulnerable, and worst of all, they cannot see. Visibility shrinks to a matter of yards. The forest swallows sound, swallows movement, swallows warning. This is not a battlefield, it is a cage. Days before the march, Arminius made his move. He approached Varus with urgent news, a rebellion, a distant uprising among Germanic tribes. Nothing major, just a disturbance that required attention. Varus believed him. Why wouldn't he? Arminius had fought for Rome, earned its trust, worn its armor. So Varus makes a decision, a fatal one. He diverts his entire force off the main route and into unfamiliar territory, into the forest, exactly where Arminius wants him. At this moment, everything could still change. If Varus turns back, the legions survive. If he scouts ahead, the trap is exposed. If he doubts Arminius, history rewrites itself. But he does none of those things, because the greatest strength of Rome, its confidence, is about to become its greatest weakness. As the column pushes deeper, Arminius makes his excuse. He tells Varus he must ride ahead, gather auxiliary forces, scout the reported rebellion. Varus agrees, no hesitation, no suspicion. And just like that, Arminius leaves the Roman column, not to scout, not to gather allies, but to join the army waiting in the trees, thousands of Germanic warriors, hidden, silent, ready. This is the moment the trap closes. It begins small, almost unnoticeable, a rustle in the trees, a shadow moving too quickly, a distant sound that doesn't belong. The Roman soldiers feel it before they understand it. That instinct, that quiet voice that whispers, something is wrong. But the column keeps moving, because stopping is worse. Stopping means vulnerability. Stopping means admitting uncertainty, and Roman soldiers do not admit uncertainty. Then, it happens. A spear flies from the trees. It strikes a soldier in the neck. He collapses without a sound. Another spear, then another, then dozens. Suddenly, the forest erupts. War cries explode from every direction. Germanic warriors surge from the trees, not in formation, not in ranks, but in chaos. Fast, aggressive, unpredictable. They strike the edges of the column, disappear, strike again. The Roman soldiers try to respond, but they can't form lines, they can't organize, they can't even see where the attacks are coming from. Shields raise too late, orders are lost in the noise, centurions shout commands that vanish into the storm. The legions are not fighting a battle, they are being torn apart, piece by piece. This is not the decisive clash Rome is built for. There is no single moment to win, no line to hold, no enemy to crush, just confusion, fear, and a growing realization. They are completely surrounded. The Roman column collapses into disorder. Wagons overturn in the mud, animals panic, civilians scream and scatter. Soldiers are forced off the path, into the trees, where visibility drops to nothing. Small groups form instinctively, clusters of men trying to survive. But this is exactly what Arminius wanted. Divide them, isolate them, destroy them, one group at a time. The Roman advantage, discipline, formation, coordination, all of it is gone. The rain intensifies, the ground turns to sludge. Roman armor becomes a burden, heavy, restricting movement. The large rectangular shields, designed for formation fighting, now awkward, unwieldy. Meanwhile, the Germanic warriors move freely, lightly armored, familiar with the terrain. They know every tree, every path, every choke point. To them, this isn't chaos, it's control. By nightfall, the Roman legions are still alive, but barely holding together. They have lost men, lost supplies, lost cohesion, and worst of all, they still don't understand the scale of what they're facing. Because this was only the beginning. The first strike, the opening move, and over the next 2 days, things will get much worse. Night falls. But it brings no relief. There is no camp, no fortified perimeter, no clean defensive line, just fragments of an army, scattered in the darkness. The Roman legions attempt to do what they've been trained to do: regroup, reform, survive the night. Small units gather where they can. Centurions try to reassert control. Officers shout orders in the dark, calling men back into something resembling structure. They begin constructing a crude camp. But this isn't a Roman camp. No trenches, no proper palisades, no time, no space, just desperation. And in the distance, you hear them, not marching, not shouting orders, but watching. The Germanic warriors don't attack in full force during the night. They don't need to. They let fear do the work. Occasional screams break the silence. A patrol that never returns. A lone soldier dragged into the trees. The message is clear. You are not safe, not even here. For the first time in years, Roman soldiers begin to understand something they've never truly felt before. They are not in control. At dawn, the rain has not stopped. The ground is worse. Mud now reaches the ankles. In some places, the knees. The survivors gather. What remains of 3 legions now looks like a broken column, disorganized, exhausted, bloodied. Publius Quinctilius Varus surveys what's left. He knows now. This is not a minor uprising. This is a coordinated assault, a betrayal. And somewhere out there, Arminius is leading it. The realization hits hard, but there's no time to dwell, because the only option left is to move. Roman doctrine is clear. When caught in hostile territory, regroup, stabilize, move toward open ground, find space to form proper lines. So Varus gives the order. The army will continue forward. They will break through, reach safer terrain, and re-establish control. It's the only logical decision, but logic no longer applies here. Because the Germans aren't trying to stop the Romans from escaping, they're guiding them deeper. The forest tightens, the path narrows further. To one side, dense woodland; to the other, swamp. There is no room to maneuver, no room to deploy. The Roman army is stretched again, long, thin, exposed. And then they see it, a ridge, a slight elevation, and along it, earthworks, a crude wall of dirt and timber, hidden, prepared, waiting. This is no random ambush. This is engineered, planned, calculated. Arminius didn't just gather warriors. He built a battlefield. The attack begins again, but this time, it's worse. The Germanic warriors don't just strike and retreat. They hold positions. They use the terrain. From behind the earthen wall, they hurl spears down into the Roman column. From the trees, they fire, charge, withdraw, and repeat. The Romans attempt to push uphill, but the mud slows them. Their formation breaks before it even forms. Shields overlap poorly. Men slip, fall, get trampled, and when a Roman unit tries to climb the ridge, they are met with a wall of warriors, fresh, prepared, waiting. This is no longer an ambush. This is a slaughter designed in layers. Every step forward costs blood. The Roman legions are built around formation, the testudo, shield walls, disciplined ranks. But none of it works here. The terrain breaks their lines, the trees block their coordination, the mud destroys their footing. Commands cannot travel down the column, units act independently, and that is fatal. Because Roman strength comes from unity. Without it, they are just men. And the Germanic warriors know it. They target officers, centurions, standard bearers, anything that holds the Roman structure together. Cut off the head, and the body collapses. The storm continues, unrelenting. The Romans are soaked, exhausted, freezing. Their bows lose tension, their equipment deteriorates. Meanwhile, the Germanic warriors thrive in it. They are not weighed down. They are not bound to formation. They fight in bursts, short engagements, then disappear again. They are not trying to win quickly. They are trying to wear Rome down, break it slowly, completely. By the end of the second day, the Roman army is no longer an army. It is a mass of survivors, barely holding on, surrounded, exhausted, and losing hope. And tomorrow, there will be no escape, because the final phase of the trap is already waiting. Morning comes. But it doesn't feel like morning. There is no sunrise breaking through the trees, no warmth, no clarity, just grey light filtering through rain-soaked branches. What remains of the Roman force gathers once more, not in formation, not in strength, but in survival. Men with broken shields, bent armor, blood-stained tunics, eyes hollow from exhaustion. This is what's left of 3 Roman legions, the 16th, the 68th, the 19th, names that once carried power, now reduced to fragments. At the center, Publius Quinctilius Varus. He knows. There is no illusion left, no belief in control, no expectation of rescue, only one reality. They are trapped, and somewhere in the forest, Arminius is preparing the final blow. Varus gives the order. Move forward. Break through. It is the only option left. Standing still means death. Retreating through the same terrain means destruction. So they push. What remains of the legions begins to move again, slower than before, more cautious, but still moving. Because Roman soldiers are trained to endure, to obey, to press forward, even when everything is falling apart. But the forest has already decided their fate. The path tightens even more. Now there is almost no road at all, just mud, trees, and narrow strips of movement. The Romans are forced into smaller clusters, compression, crowding, no space to fight, no space to breathe. And then, the signal, a horn, low, echoing through the forest. And suddenly, everything explodes. The Germanic warriors attack from every direction. Not scattered this time, not probing. This is full force. Thousands surge forward, from the ridge, from the trees, from behind. They close the gaps, cut off escape routes. The Romans are surrounded, completely. The fighting is no longer organized. No formations, no lines, just close quarters violence. Swords clash in inches of space, shields splinter, men slip in mud mixed with blood. The Romans try to hold, try to create defensive pockets, but every pocket is isolated, every group is overwhelmed. This is the moment Rome loses its grip on survival. Not slowly, not strategically, but all at once. Amid the chaos, Publius Quinctilius Varus sees the truth. There is no escape, no regrouping, no recovery. The legions are finished, and Varus understands something deeply Roman. Capture is not an option. To be taken alive, to be paraded, to be humiliated, is worse than death. So he makes his choice. He falls on his sword, a Roman end. Around him, other officers follow, choosing death over capture, choosing control over humiliation. But for the rest, there is no choice. The battle continues. But it is no longer a battle. It is a massacre. The remaining Roman soldiers fight in small clusters, back to back, shield to shield. until they are overwhelmed. Some try to flee into the forest. They are hunted down. Some attempt to surrender. Few are spared. Most are killed. The Germanic warriors show no mercy. Because this is not just victory. This is vengeance. For years of Roman expansion, for lost lands, for threatened cultures, this is the moment they take it back. And then it ends. Not with a signal, not with a retreat, but with silence. The forest returns to stillness, where tens of thousands once marched. Now there are bodies, scattered, broken, forgotten. 3 Roman legions, gone, not defeated, erased, their eagles captured, their standards lost, their names never to be used again. Back in Rome, they don't know it yet. But when word arrives, it will shake the empire to its core. Because Rome doesn't just lose battles. And what happened here was more than a loss. It was a warning. At first, there is only silence, no messengers, no reports, no survivors arriving with news of victory. Weeks pass. Then, fragments begin to emerge. A rider arrives, alone, exhausted, barely alive. He carries no banners, no triumph, only words. And those words spread like fire through the city. 3 legions, gone. Destroyed in the forests of Germania, the 17th, the 18th, the 99th. Names that once stood for Roman power, now spoken in disbelief, in fear, in denial. Because this doesn't happen to Rome. And when the truth reaches the emperor, it changes him. In the heart of the empire, Augustus receives the report, the man who brought stability to Rome, the architect of its dominance, now confronted with something he cannot control. Loss, not a minor defeat, not a temporary setback, but annihilation. According to ancient sources, Augustus is shaken to his core. He wanders his palace in distress, striking his head against the walls, repeating the same words over and over. Varus, give me back my legions. It is not just grief, it is fear. Because if 3 legions can vanish in the forest, what else can? Rome reacts quickly. Not with celebration, not with retaliation, yet, but with defense. Reinforcements are rushed to the Rhine River, fortifications strengthened, garrisons doubled, because suddenly the frontier feels fragile. Germania is no longer a province in progress. It is a threat, a potential gateway into Roman territory. For the first time in years, Rome prepares for invasion, not expansion. Roman commanders begin to analyze what happened, and the conclusions are hard to accept. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a fluke. This was strategy. Arminius didn't just betray Rome, he outthought it. He used Roman expectations against them. He turned discipline into rigidity, turned confidence into vulnerability, turned terrain into a weapon. The Roman war machine, designed for open field dominance, was never meant for this kind of fight. And now, they have proof. The empire that conquered the known world has just learned it is not invincible. Back in Germania, the aftermath looks very different. This is not a retreat. This is not survival. This is victory. Total. Complete. The Germanic tribes celebrate. Because they didn't just repel Rome, they destroyed it. In their land. On their terms. The battlefield becomes something else. A message. Roman equipment is taken. Weapons, armor, standards. Some are kept as trophies. Others are used in rituals. The forest becomes sacred ground, a place where the impossible happened, where Rome was broken. Not all Romans die in the forest. Some are captured, taken alive. But survival does not mean freedom. Many are enslaved, forced into labor. Some are sacrificed, offered to the gods of the tribes that defeated them. Others disappear into the wilderness, never seen again. No organized return, no rescue. They are simply gone. In the years that follow, Rome will return, not to conquer, but to respond, to recover what was lost, to restore its pride. But the question remains, can an empire truly recover from a defeat like this? Long-term impact on European history. Rome does not forget. It cannot afford to. Years after the disaster in the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, the empire prepares to go back, not blindly, not arrogantly, but deliberately, carefully, because this time they know what waits in the forest. And leading this return is a different kind of commander, not a bureaucrat, not an administrator, but a soldier, a leader shaped by war, Germanicus. Germanicus does what Varus did not. He respects the land. He scouts carefully, moves methodically, keeps his legions tight, disciplined, prepared. Over multiple campaigns, he pushes into Germania, engages the tribes, wins battles, forces retreats, reasserts Roman strength. But this is not conquest. This is retaliation, measured, purposeful. He is not trying to hold Germania. He is trying to restore Rome's honor. At one point, Germanicus leads his men to the site of the disaster, the forest, the place where 3 legions vanished. What they find is not a battlefield. It is a graveyard, bones scattered across the ground, bleached by time, remnants of armor, broken weapons, fragments of what was once Rome's might, some bodies still partially buried, others left where they fell. It has been years, and the forest has not forgotten. Germanicus orders a burial. Roman soldiers gather the remains of their fallen brothers, legionaries who died without honor, without ceremony, now finally laid to rest. But even in this moment, there is no closure. Only a reminder, because the man who caused it all is still out there. Arminius becomes a legend among his people, the man who defeated Rome, the man who protected Germania. But victory does not bring unity. The tribes remain divided, rivalries return, power struggles begin. Arminius tries to consolidate control, to lead beyond the battle. But the same independence that made the tribes strong also makes them unstable. Eventually, Arminius is betrayed, not by Rome, but by his own, killed by members of his tribe, a hero of war, undone by peace. The man who stopped an empire could not control his own people. Rome continues to campaign in Germania for years. Victories are won, enemies are defeated. But something has changed. The goal is no longer conquest, because the cost is too high, the terrain too difficult, the tribes too unpredictable, the reward too small. So Rome makes a decision, a rare one. It stops. Instead of pushing deeper into Germania, it draws a line. The Rhine River becomes the boundary, not a temporary border, a permanent one. Rome will not expand further into the Germanic interior, not because it cannot win battles, but because it cannot control the land. The consequences of this decision ripple through history. Because of this battle, Germania remains outside Roman control. Its tribes evolve independently, develop their own identities, their own cultures. Centuries later, these same regions will shape medieval Europe, influence kingdoms, define borders, even contribute to the foundations of modern nations. If Rome had succeeded here, Europe would look very different. Language, culture, power structures, all altered. The forest did not just stop an army, it changed the course of a continent. And it all comes back to one moment, one decision, one march into the unknown, 3 legions, nearly 20,000 men, gone, not in a grand, decisive battle, but in rain, mud, and trees. The Roman Empire survived. But it was never quite the same, because for the first time, it learned its limits. So here's the question. If Varus had turned back, if Arminius had failed, if Rome had conquered Germania, how different would our world be today? If you made it this far, you just experienced one of the most devastating defeats in ancient history in full detail. If you want more deep cinematic breakdowns like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. What battle should we cover next?